Tom Walker stood at the observation deck of Fix-It Prime, Earth's largest orbital repair station, watching the unusual traffic jam forming in space. The sight never got old, even after 5 years as head engineer. Dozens of alien ships, each different from the last, waited in neat lines extending far into the darkness of space. Some glowed with strange lights, others looked like they were made of living crystal, and a few seemed to bend the very space around them. "Sir, the galactic standard time is 800, and we have 37 ships in the queue," reported Jack, his young assistant. The boy's eyes were wide with excitement, even though he saw this sight every morning. Tom nodded, taking the sip from his coffee mug that read Universal Fix-It Guy. "What's the urgent case for today?" "A Bright Star cargo ship. Their main drive is making strange noises, and 3 other repair stations couldn't figure out what's wrong." Jack checked his tablet, scrolling through the morning reports. "They're losing money every day they're stuck here." Tom smiled. This was exactly the kind of challenge he loved. Other repair stations, run by various alien species, were great at following manuals and replacing parts. But when something unusual happened, that's when they called the humans. The repair bay doors opened with a soft hiss, revealing today's first patient. The Bright Star ship looked like a massive silver whale, its hull shimmering with a faint blue glow. As it slowly moved into position, Tom could hear the problem before anyone said a word. A distinct rattling sound that shouldn't exist in the vacuum of space, transmitted through the station's sensors. "They say it's impossible to fix," Jack read from the report. "The Centaurians said the entire drive needs replacement. The Rigel station suggested scrapping the ship." "Impossible." Tom laughed, already walking toward the tool room. "You know what I always say about impossible. It's just another word for hasn't met a human yet," Jack finished with a grin. The repair bay was huge, designed to accommodate ships of all sizes. As Tom and his team of 12 engineers approached the Bright Star vessel, its captain emerged, a tall, insect-like being with 4 arms and shimmering compound eyes. "Honorable human engineers," the captain's translator device buzzed. "We have visited 3 repair stations across 2 sectors. All say the same. The drive cannot be saved. We hope your species' reputation for unusual solutions proves true." Tom was already scanning the ship with his handheld device. "Captain, do you mind if I ask something weird? Does the rattling sound change when you're carrying different cargo loads?" The captain's antennae twitched in surprise. "Yes. How did you know?" "Just a hunch," Tom said, climbing onto the maintenance platform. "Back on Earth, I used to fix old trucks. Sometimes they'd make similar noises when the load wasn't balanced right. Space is different, but physics is physics." The alien captain watched nervously as Tom's team swarmed around the ship's drive section. Other alien engineers present at the station gathered to observe. Their expressions, those who had recognizable expressions, showing a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. "Look here," Tom pointed to his scanner display. "The drive's quantum field matrix is slightly misaligned. Not enough to show up on standard tests, but enough to create resonance when the cargo mass shifts." He turned to his team. "We can fix this in about 4 hours." 4 hours? The captain's translator crackled with disbelief. "The Centaurians said it would take 3 weeks just to replace the drive." "Well, we're not going to replace it," Tom explained, already pulling tools from his kit. "We're going to adjust it. Sometimes fixing things is better than replacing them. It's a human specialty." As the team got to work, Tom couldn't help but smile at the growing crowd of alien observers. 50 years ago, humans were the new kids in space, barely able to reach their own moon. Now ships came from across the galaxy to get fixed by the species that still hadn't completely figured out fusion power, all because humans never learned that some things were supposed to be impossible. The rattling sound would be gone in 4 hours, and another impossible repair would become just another day's work at Fix-It Prime. That's why they came to humans, not because humans had the best technology, but because they had something better. the ability to think around problems instead of through them. As Tom finished the repair on the bright starship, his mind wandered back to the day everything changed for humanity. He remembered watching it on TV 15 years ago. The day humans proved they could fix anything, even technology they didn't understand. It happened at the old International Space Station. An alien ship had appeared, damaged from an asteroid strike. The aliens, tall blue-skinned beings, were shocked to find intelligent life on Earth. They were even more shocked when their universal translator broke down. The alien captain had tried to explain through hand signals that they needed repairs. The human engineers on the station faced a problem. They had never seen alien technology before, had no proper tools for it, and couldn't even understand the repair manual. "We're getting another memory alert." Jack's voice brought Tom back to the present. "Want to hear something funny?" Today marks exactly 15 years since the Alan Carter incident. Tom grinned. Everyone in the repair business knew that story. Alan Carter was the engineer who changed everything that day on the space station. When faced with alien technology he didn't understand, he did something that horrified the aliens but amazed the galaxy. He fixed their quantum translator with duct tape, paper clips, and parts from an old radio. "Did I ever tell you I met Alan?" Tom asked, watching his team finish up with the bright starship. "He told me the aliens nearly had a heart attack. All 4 of them, when he pulled out the duct tape. Is it true he got the idea from watching old TV shows?" Jack asked, helping to pack away the tools. "MacGyver reruns," Tom confirmed. The aliens couldn't believe it worked. Their entire repair philosophy was based on replacing parts with exact duplicates. The idea of fixing something with whatever you had on hand was completely foreign to them. A loud buzz interrupted their conversation. A new ship was entering the repair zone, this one looking like a giant metal butterfly. Its wings sparkled with rainbow colors, but one side was clearly damaged. "Greetings, Fix-It Prime," a melodic voice came through the speakers. "We were told humans could help us. Our ship's energy collector was damaged by solar flares. 3 other stations said replacement is the only option, but we cannot afford new parts." Tom walked over to examine the damage. The energy collecting panels were indeed badly warped, their crystal structure distorted by the intense solar radiation. By alien standards, they were beyond repair, but humans had never been good at accepting standards. "Jack, remember that old technique they used to fix warped car bodies back on Earth?" Tom asked, already forming a plan. "Hot and cold treatment." Jack's eyes lit up. "But sir, these are advanced alien crystals, not car metal." "Physics is physics." Tom repeated his favorite phrase. "Get me the portable thermal regulator and some of that Earth aluminum we keep for emergencies." The alien ship's crew watched in horror as Tom's team began applying controlled heat to their precious crystals, then rapidly cooling specific sections. Other alien engineers in the station gathered around, recording everything with their devices. "This is madness," one of the alien observers proclaimed. "You cannot treat quantum collection crystals like common metals." But Tom knew better. In the 15 years since Alan Carter's duct tape repair, humans had learned that their primitive knowledge often worked on advanced technology in surprising ways. The principles were often the same. It was just the materials that were different. An hour later, the warped crystal panels were straight again. The alien crew couldn't believe their sensors. "How?" the ship's engineer asked. "Our technical manuals say this is impossible without total replacement." Tom smiled, remembering Alan Carter's famous words to the first aliens. "Sometimes the best solutions aren't in any manual. They're in here." He tapped his head. "That's why they come to us now," Tom explained to Jack as they watched the butterfly ship leave. "Alien engineering is about following instructions perfectly. Human engineering is about making things work, even when you don't have the right instructions or parts." As if to prove his point, 3 more ships were already lining up outside, each with problems their own species couldn't solve. But that was fine. Humans had been solving impossible problems since they figured out how to make fire. Get the tools ready, Tom told his team. Let's show the galaxy how humans fix things. The afternoon shift at Fix-It Prime was going smoothly until a massive shadow fell over the repair station. Tom looked up from his work and froze. Through the observation window, he saw a ship that made all others look tiny in comparison. It was the size of a small city, its hull decorated with the golden spiral symbol of the Galactic Council. "Emergency transmission coming in," Jack announced, his voice shaking slightly. It's the Council's main diplomatic vessel, the Star Bridge." The ship's surface shimmered like liquid metal in the sunlight, but even from a distance, Tom could see something was wrong. Parts of the hull were flickering, becoming transparent for split seconds before returning to normal. "This is High Ambassador Reed of the Galactic Council," a grave voice came through the speakers. "We have an urgent situation. Our ship's phase lock system is failing. We're carrying 57 ambassadors to the Peace Summit on Centauride Prime. We must arrive within 72 hours, or the peace talks will fail." Tom's team gathered around the communication console. They all knew what the phase lock system did. It kept the ship's massive hull from phasing through itself. If it failed completely, the ship would collapse. "We've already visited the top repair stations in 3 sectors," the ambassador continued. All said the same thing. The repair would take at least 2 weeks. "We heard humans have different methods." Tom looked at the diagnostic data streaming across his screens. The numbers were bad. Really bad. The phase lock system was operating at 23% capacity and dropping. "Permission to dock granted," Tom responded. "We'll take a look." As the massive ship carefully maneuvered into Fix-It Prime's largest repair bay, Tom noticed something odd. The ship's design looked familiar, reminding him of old Earth submarines. The repair bay's atmosphere shield activated, allowing the repair team to approach the ship. Up close, the damage was even more apparent. Waves of phase shift distortion rippled across the hull like heat waves over hot pavement. Ambassador Reed met them at the ship's main access point. He was human, one of the few serving on the council, and his worried expression said everything. "The phase lock generators are failing one by one," he explained, leading them through corridors filled with anxious alien diplomats. "The Rigel engineers said the entire system needs replacement. The Centauri team suggested emergency evacuation." They reached the main engineering section, where alien technicians worked frantically at control panels. The phase lock system's core was visible through a transparent barrier, a massive cylinder filled with swirling energy, now flickering dangerously. 2 weeks for replacement, you said?" Tom asked, studying the system. Something about the design kept nagging at his memory. "Minimum," Reed confirmed, "but we have 72 hours at most. This peace summit, well, let's just say a lot of worlds are counting on these talks." Tom walked around the core, ignoring the confused looks from the alien technicians. The design really did remind him of something. "Jack," he called suddenly. "Remember that documentary we watched about old Russian submarines? About how they handled reactor problems?" Jack's eyes widened. "The containment ring bypass. But sir, this is completely different technology." "Is it?" Tom pulled up the ship's schematics on his tablet. "Look at the flow pattern of the phase energy. It's just like coolant flow in those old reactors. The principles are the same. We're just containing phase energy instead of radiation." He turned to Ambassador Reed. "I need to make a call to Earth, specifically to the Maritime Museum in St. Petersburg. And I need every piece of heavy industrial equipment this station has." You have a plan?" Reed asked hopefully. "I have an idea," Tom corrected. "It's either going to save your ship or make every safety inspector in the galaxy have a heart attack." He paused. "Probably both." The ambassador looked at the failing core, then at the increasingly panicked aliens in the corridor. "Do it." Tom nodded to his team. "Get me those museum blueprints. And somebody find me all the superconducting wire we have. We're going to teach these phase lock generators a little lesson from 20th century Earth." As his team rushed off, Tom looked at the sophisticated alien technology around him and smiled. Sometimes the best solutions to future problems could be found in the past. The aliens just never thought to look there. The clock was ticking. They had 72 hours to do what the galaxy's best said was impossible. Just another day at Fix-It Prime. You want to do what? The alien chief engineer's translator couldn't hide his shock as Tom explained his plan. The huge repair bay was now filled with equipment that looked completely out of place next to the advanced diplomatic vessel. Tom pointed to the old submarine blueprints displayed on the screen, then to the failing phase lock system. We're going to build a containment ring around your phase lock core, just like they did in old nuclear submarines. The principles are similar, but this is prehistoric technology. The alien engineer's multiple eyes blinked rapidly. You cannot fix quantum phase technology with primitive metal rings. Watch us, Tom said, turning to his team. Start setting up the magnetic cradles. Jack, how's that superconducting wire coming along? Got all we had in storage, sir, Jack called from behind a pile of coiled wire. About 2 kilometers of it. Should be enough to wrap the whole core. The repair bay was buzzing with activity. Tom's team worked quickly, ignoring the growing crowd of alien observers who had come to watch what they thought would be either a miracle or a disaster. Among them stood Ambassador Reed, alternating between looking hopeful and terrified. 68 hours remaining, Jack announced, checking the time. Tom nodded, watching as his team began constructing the massive ring structure around the ship's core. The phase lock system continued to flicker dangerously, each flash making the alien observers flinch. This is madness, one alien diplomat muttered. Using physical metal to contain quantum phase energy. It breaks every safety protocol in the manual. Good thing we didn't read the manual then, Tom replied, carefully measuring the energy output from the failing core. The readings were getting worse. They had to work faster. Hour after hour, the team worked. They wrapped the superconducting wire around the core in a precise pattern, following the old submarine designs but adapted for their current needs. Tom's hands moved steady and sure, even as sweat dripped from his forehead. Sir, Jack called out suddenly. The phase lock system just dropped to 15% capacity. The ship shuddered. Through the windows, they could see parts of the hull becoming transparent, then solid again. Several alien diplomats rushed out of the repair bay in panic. Keep working, Tom ordered. We're almost ready for power-up. The alien chief engineer hovered nervously nearby. This will never work. The energy patterns are completely wrong. The containment field will collapse instantly. Tom ignored him, focusing on the final connections. He had learned long ago that sometimes you had to ignore what everyone said was impossible. The impossible just meant nobody had tried the right-wrong solution yet. Containment ring is ready, Jack reported. But sir, the power requirements are massive. The station's generators might not be enough. Tom looked at the massive diplomatic vessel, then at his jury-rigged containment system. We're not going to use the station's power. He turned to Ambassador Reed. How many backup generators does this ship have? 12, Reed answered, but they're meant for emergency life support only. Perfect. Jack, start rerouting power from the ship's backup generators. All of them. The alien engineer's translator made a sound like it was choking. You cannot do that. It breaks 17 different safety protocols. Protocol 68 of the Galactic Engineering Code, Tom quoted with a smile. In cases of extreme emergency, standard safety protocols may be overridden at the discretion of the chief engineer present. He looked at the failing core. I'd say this qualifies. The containment ring hummed to life as power from the backup generators flowed into it. The superconducting wire began to glow with a soft blue light. Everyone in the repair bay held their breath. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the phase lock core's flickering began to stabilize. The waves of distortion across the ship's hull started to fade. Phase lock system stabilizing at 67% capacity, Jack announced, his voice filled with disbelief. It's actually working. Tom watched the readings carefully. Don't celebrate yet. We've solved one problem, but we've created another. Those backup generators won't last forever. He turned to his team. We've got the bleeding stopped, but now we need to figure out how to keep it that way. Through the repair bay windows, Earth shone bright and blue. Tom allowed himself a small smile. They had just proved once again why ships came to human repair stations, because sometimes the best solution was the one that nobody else would dare to try. Time for Phase 2, he announced. And this part's going to be even crazier. Tom stood before the assembled group in Fix-It Prime's main repair bay, his eyes moving between the diplomatic vessel's temporary containment system and the worried faces around him. The backup generators will fail in about 6 hours, he announced. We need a permanent solution before then. He pulled up a holographic display showing the ship's internal systems. What about the mining laser? Jack suggested suddenly, drawing confused looks from everyone. Tom raised an eyebrow. The station's old mining laser. The one we used to cut up space junk. Go on. Jack stepped forward, his confidence growing. Remember what you taught me about old Earth mining techniques, how they used controlled explosions to find diamonds. What if we used the mining laser to create a similar effect with the phase crystals? The alien engineers in the room looked horrified. The chief alien engineer's translator crackled with static as he spoke rapidly. You want to fire a mining laser at phase crystals, the most delicate component of our ship's core. Impossible. Insane. But Tom was already nodding, a smile spreading across his face. Not at the crystals, around them. Jack, you're a genius. He turned to Ambassador Reed. We need permission to do something that's never been tried before. Reed looked at the failing containment system, then back at Tom. At this point, Ambassador, we'll try anything, he said grimly. Tom's team sprang into action. They began moving the station's massive mining laser into position, carefully aligning it with the ship's phase lock core. The laser itself was an old piece of equipment used primarily for breaking down derelict ships and space debris. The theory is simple, Tom explained as they worked. The phase crystals are failing because their internal structure is degrading. On Earth, we learned that sometimes you need to break something a little to make it stronger. He pointed to the holographic display. We'll use the mining laser to create precise stress points in the crystal matrix, like creating artificial fault lines. Then, when the energy flows through, the crystals will restructure themselves. Jack finished excitedly, just like how diamonds form under pressure. The alien observers were recording everything, their previous horror now mixed with fascination. Some were furiously taking notes, while others whispered among themselves. 30 minutes until the first generator fails, called out one of Tom's team members. Tom nodded. Start the laser calibration. Jack, monitor the crystal response. Everyone else, clear the area. The mining laser hummed to life, its beam precisely controlled to create microscopic stress patterns in the crystal matrix. Tom's hands moved steadily over the controls, making tiny adjustments based on the readings Jack called out. Crystal stress at 15%, 25%, 40%. Jack's voice was tense. The alien chief engineer couldn't watch. This goes against every principle of crystal engineering. You're deliberately damaging them. Sometimes you have to break the rules of engineering to make something better, Tom replied, his eyes fixed on the readings. That's what humans do best. The phase lock core began to pulse with a new rhythm. The crystals, stressed by the laser's precise cutting, started to glow with an inner light that none of the aliens had seen before. Sir, Jack called out suddenly. The crystal structure is changing. It's rewriting itself. Tom allowed himself a small smile. Just like Earth diamonds. Under the right kind of pressure, crystals don't break. They get stronger. The entire repair bay watched in amazement as the phase lock system's power levels began to rise. 70%, 80%, 90%. Phase lock system stabilizing at 95% efficiency. Jack announced, his voice filled with disbelief. That's better than factory specifications. The alien engineers rushed to their instruments, checking and rechecking the readings. The chief engineer's translator was practically smoking as he switched between multiple languages, trying to express his astonishment. Ambassador Reed stepped forward, looking at the now stable core. How? This shouldn't be possible. The best engineers in the galaxy said these crystals couldn't be fixed. Tom powered down the mining laser and wiped his hands on his jumpsuit. The best engineers in the galaxy never had to fix a broken-down car with duct tape and wire hangers, he said with a grin. Sometimes the best solutions come from understanding how things break, not just how they're supposed to work. He looked at his team proudly. That's the human advantage. We don't just fix things. We make them better than they were before. The ship's hull was now completely stable, the phase lock system humming with new strength, and all around the repair bay, alien engineers were frantically documenting the procedure that would soon become known across the galaxy as the human pressure treatment. But they weren't done yet. There was still one more challenge to face. The celebration in Fix-It Prime's repair bay was cut short by a sudden, sharp alarm. Red warning lights flashed across every control panel. Power surge in the phase lock system, Jack shouted, his fingers flying over the controls. The new crystal structure is generating too much energy. Tom rushed to the main console, watching as the power readings climbed dangerously high. The phase lock core, which they had just stabilized, was now glowing with an intense white light that hurt to look at. This is what happens when you break the rules of crystal engineering, the alien chief engineer cried out. The energy patterns are cascading. The whole system could explode. Ambassador Reed stepped forward, his face pale. How long until critical failure? 20 minutes, maybe less, Tom answered, his mind racing. He looked at the overloading core, then at the old submarine blueprints still displayed on the screen. Something clicked in his memory. Jack, he called out suddenly. What do submarines do when their reactor runs too hot? They use emergency cooling systems. Jack's eyes widened with understanding. But sir, we don't have anything cold enough to cool phase energy. Tom smiled. Yes, we do. He turned to Ambassador Reed. Ambassador, your ship has liquid nitrogen tanks for the food preservation systems, right? Yes, but the ambassador's eyes widened. You want to use our food cooling system to cool the phase lock core. Not just the cooling system, Tom replied, already moving. We're going to build an ice engine. His team looked confused, but they knew that look in Tom's eyes. It was the same look he got every time he was about to do something either brilliant or crazy. Usually both. Jack, get me all the liquid nitrogen from the ship's food storage. Pete, I need the coolant pipes from Repair Bay 3. Mary, find me every superconducting coil we have left. The repair bay erupted into action. As his team rushed to gather supplies, Tom explained his plan to the increasingly nervous ambassador. Old nuclear submarines had a last resort cooling system. If everything else failed, they would create an ice barrier around the reactor. We're going to do the same thing, but with phase energy. The alien engineers watched in disbelief as Tom's team began building what looked like a massive ring of pipes around the overloading core. Liquid nitrogen flowed through the hastily assembled system, creating a fog of supercooled air. This is madness, one alien observer shouted. You cannot contain phase energy with ice. Watch us, Tom replied, carefully adjusting the flow of liquid nitrogen. The principles are the same as any other energy system. Hot goes to cold. Basic thermodynamics. The clock ticked down. 15 minutes. 10 minutes. The phase lock core continued to build power, its light now pulsing like a small sun. Nitrogen flow at maximum, Jack reported. Core temperature still rising. Tom studied the readings, sweat dripping down his face despite the freezing air around them. Something wasn't right. The cooling system was working, but not fast enough. Then he saw it. The energy isn't just hot, he muttered. It's spinning. Jack, reverse the nitrogen flow in every other pipe. We need to create a counter-rotation. Jack looked confused, but followed the order. Immediately, the frost patterns around the core began to change, forming intricate spiral patterns in the ice. Core temperature dropping. Mary called out. Power levels stabilizing. The intense light from the core began to dim. Where the supercooled nitrogen met the phase energy, beautiful crystal patterns formed in the ice, glowing with a soft blue light. Amazing, the alien chief engineer whispered. You're not just cooling the energy. We're giving it somewhere to go. Tom finished, converting phase energy into crystalline structure. The ice isn't containing it. It's becoming part of it. The warning alarms finally fell silent. The core's power levels dropped back to normal, now surrounded by a beautiful lattice of glowing ice crystals. Ambassador Reed stepped forward, shaking his head in wonder. First, you fix our phase lock system with a mining laser, then you save it with food cooling equipment. How do humans think of these solutions? Tom wiped his hands on his jumpsuit, leaving frost marks on the fabric. We stop thinking about what things are supposed to be used for, and start thinking about what they can do. Sometimes the best solution is the one that makes everyone else say that's impossible right up until it works. The crisis was over, but as Tom looked at the glowing ice formation around the core, he realized they had discovered something entirely new, something that would change phase lock technology forever. And it all started because humans never learned to accept that some things were impossible to fix. 1 month after the dramatic repair of the Star Bridge, Fix-It Prime was busier than ever. Tom stood at his favorite spot on the observation deck, drinking his morning coffee, but today something was different. The line of ships waiting for repairs stretched farther than he had ever seen. Sir, Jack called out, hurrying over with his tablet. You need to see this. We've got ships from every major species in the galaxy. They're all requesting the same thing. Tom looked at the tablet and smiled. Every repair request had the same note, requesting human-style repairs. The doors to the observation deck slid open, and Ambassador Reed walked in, wearing the formal gold robes of the Galactic Council. Behind him floated several alien diplomats, including the chief engineer who had once called their methods impossible. Engineer Walker, Reed announced formally. The Council has made a decision. Your repair methods, particularly the ice crystal phase lock technique, are being adopted as the new galactic standard for emergency repairs. Tom almost spilled his coffee. Really? I thought the Council considered our methods. What was the word? Terrifyingly unconventional. The alien chief engineer floated forward, his translator humming. They are terrifying. They break every rule we know. But, he paused, all 4 of his eyes blinking. They work better than anything we've developed in the last 1,000 years. We're establishing a new training program, Reed continued. We want human engineers to teach their methods to repair crews across the galaxy. The Council is calling it the human approach to universal repairs. Jack looked at the growing line of ships outside. Is that why we're so busy? They all want to learn. Tom nodded at the nearest ship, where alien engineers were carefully watching their repair team work. They're not just here for repairs anymore. They're here to understand how we think. The alien chief engineer raised one of his appendages. That is what makes humans special. Not your technology, not your tools, but your way of thinking. He gestured to a repair in progress. Look there. They're fixing a quantum drive with parts from 3 different species of ships, plus something that looks like it came from an Earth vehicle. That's a carburetor from a 1967 Mustang, Tom confirmed with a grin. Works great for regulating plasma flow, believe it or not. Ambassador Reed stepped to the window, watching the repairs below. The Council has a saying. Advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. But humans, Humans make advanced technology work with primitive tools. It's like reverse magic. Not magic, Tom corrected. Just different thinking. Where others see rules, we see guidelines. Where they see impossible problems, we see puzzles waiting to be solved. A loud cheer erupted from the repair bay. The team had just successfully completed another impossible repair, this time fixing a broken gravity drive with a combination of earth welding techniques and alien crystals. "You know what's funny?" Jack said, checking his tablet again. "Remember the first alien ship that showed up at the space station years ago? The one Alan Carter fixed with duct tape. What about it?" Tom asked. "That ship's captain just joined the Council's Engineering Advisory Board. He says that duct tape repair lasted longer than the original part." Everyone laughed, even the alien engineers. The observation deck fell quiet as they watched more ships arrive, each carrying not just broken parts but eager learners, all wanting to understand the human way of fixing things. "There's an old Earth saying," Tom said finally. "Necessity is the mother of invention." Maybe that's what makes us different. We never had advanced technology handed to us. We had to figure things out the hard way, one broken machine at a time. Ambassador Reed nodded. And now the galaxy is learning that sometimes the hard way is the best way. Outside, the line of ships continued to grow. Each one carried problems that their own species called impossible to fix. But that was fine. Impossible was just another word for hasn't met a human yet. Tom finished his coffee and picked up his toolbox. There were ships to fix, engineers to teach, and probably a few more impossible things to do before lunch. Just another day at Fix-It Prime, where human ingenuity was teaching the galaxy that anything could be fixed if you just thought about it the wrong way.